imagine spending years trying to fix sluggish digestion with, these massive dietary overhaul.
Oh, yeah. The expensive supplements, the crazy restrictive regimens.
Exactly. Just to find out that the biological reset button you've been searching for is literally just a single paper-thin slice of a really common root taken right before bed.
It's wild because we are constantly sold this idea that complex physiological problems demand, well, these punishingly complex interventions, right?
Right.
We're conditioned to view our bodies as these impenetrable fortresses. And, if the fortress is failing, we automatically assume we need an entire army to breach the walls and fix the plumbing.
We totally overlook the sheer mechanical power of just a single highly targeted biological key.
We really do.
Well, that is the exact mindset our source material dismantles today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
For you listening, our mission here is to take the highly specific personal source material you shared with us and, well, extract the absolute vital nuggets of insight. We are looking at a really fascinating dispatch from the front lines of personal health experimentation.
Yeah, it's such a great source.
It is. It's an entry from a blog called Notes on Dieting. Specifically, this is part 116, published on May 28, 2026, by an author going by the name Ang, and the title is just wonderfully direct. It's Finding Digestive Balance with the Evening Ginger Ritual.
And, the fact that this is part 116 tells us pretty much everything we need to know about Ang's methodology.
Right. This isn't just a fleeting thought.
Exactly. This isn't some random wellness trend they saw on social media.
Yeah.
This is someone who is meticulously tracking their biological responses over time. I mean, they're treating their own body as a laboratory, gathering data, and just looking for patterns.
And the pattern Ang uncovers here is astonishing. I mean, we're going to deconstruct how one tiny addition to a nighttime routine completely shifts how the body operates the next morning. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the entry begins with a very, very relatable symptom. Ang is dealing with daytime indigestion.
Which is so common.
Right. But we usually treat indigestion as this purely localized issue, like, oh, I have a bit of excess acid, or a temporary discomfort in the stomach that we just want to numb or neutralize.
Yeah, just so we can get on with our day.
Exactly.
And Ang's immediate goal was purely palliative here, just wanting to soothe that lingering daytime discomfort before going to sleep. So Ang drinks a glass of warm water steeped with ginger.
The intention is really just a little bit of warmth and comfort,
Right, just a cozy nighttime drink. But then the next morning, Ang wakes up to this massive systemic surprise, a huge improvement in morning regularity.
And the distinction here is crucial. Ang went looking for a chemical Band-Aid for stomach discomfort and accidentally stumbled upon a mechanical fix for the entire gastrointestinal tract.
Which is such a wild pivot.
It really is. And to understand how that happened, the text points us to the active compound inside the ginger root, which is gingerols.
All right, so reading Ang's research on this, the best way I can visualize what gingerols actually do is to think of the digestive tract as this big industrial factory conveyor belt.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because when we experience that sluggish, heavy indigestion, it's like the gears of the belt have gotten sticky, the power is low, things are piling up on the line, and the physical movement has just ground to a halt.
Right.
But when you introduce gingerols, they act as a prokinetic. They are essentially clocking into the factory and flipping the main power switch back on to restore the physical movement of the belt.
Yes.
So is a prokinetic basically just like a conveyor belt for your digestive tract? Because we typically reach for, antacids to neutralize acid or enzymes to break food down.
Exactly, but a prokinetic isn't about breaking things down at all. It is literally about physically moving them forward.
Wow.
Your conveyor belt analogy actually captures the exact biological mechanism at play here.
Really?
Because the gastrointestinal tract has its own localized nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system. And it regulates what we call the migrating motor complex, which is the literal biological term for your conveyor belt.
The migrating motor complex.
Yeah. So the gingerols in that warm water interact with receptors in the gut, and they command the muscles to begin these rhythmic contractions. It's a process called peristalsis.
Wait, so the gingerols aren't just sitting there being warm and soothing?
Not at all. They are pharmacologically triggering a coordinated muscular wave that literally sweeps through the stomach and the intestines.
That completely recontextualizes Ang's aha moment the next morning.
Right.
The ginger didn't just calm the stomach acid, it turned the factory floor back on while Ang was sleeping.
Exactly. It created that rhythmic wave, ensuring that all the lingering waste was physically moved to the end of the line by the time they woke up.
It really highlights a fundamental misunderstanding we often have about our own digestion, doesn't it? Like, we tend to think of digestion merely as this chemical process of melting food down.
Yes, like a vat of acid.
Yeah. We totally forget that it is an intensely physical, mechanical process. The pipes actually have to squeeze and push, and prokinetics like gingerols restore that physical squeezing.
And that brings up a really important point.
Well, yeah, because if gingerols are literally forcing these muscular contractions, it begs a pretty obvious physical question. What happens if you flood the system with them?
Ah, yes.
Because human nature dictates that if a little bit of a prokinetic gets the belt moving, a whole truckload of it should make the factory hyper efficient, right? Like, let's just drink an entire pot of heavily concentrated ginger tea and become a digestion machine.
Yeah, and the source throws up a massive stop sign on that exact logic.
Thank goodness.
Eng's research notes that this prokinetic effect is a double-edged sword. More is absolutely not better when you are dealing with direct muscular stimulation.
So for you listening, if you naturally have a sensitive stomach, you're probably wondering what turning this conveyor belt up to maximum speed actually feels like.
It's not pleasant.
No, Eng's text gives a really stark warning. Overstimulating the system leads directly to feeling bloated or gassy, which is the exact opposite of what you want.
Right. You take the ginger to cure the indigestion, and by taking too much, you create a brand new type of intense discomfort.
Which is
It's
junk.
awful. Let's apply your factory analogy to that warning. Imagine turning the speed dial on that industrial conveyor belt to 300%.
Oh boy.
It doesn't make the factory more efficient. The machinery starts jerking erratically, items start crashing into each other, and that smooth, coordinated rhythm is completely lost.
That paints a very clear picture.
Biologically, if you flood the enteric nervous system with too many gingerols, the muscular contractions stop being a smooth, sweeping wave. They become chaotic spasms.
So the muscles are squeezing too hard, too fast, and not even in the right sequence?
Precisely. And when gut spasms, instead of waving smoothly, it traps air.
Oh.
The localized pressure builds up because the mechanical flow is completely jammed by its own frantic contractions. And that trapped air and erratic squeezing is exactly what we experience as gas and severe bloating.
Ouch. So the goal is finding the absolute minimum effective dose to trigger the wave without triggering a spasm.
Yes, exactly.
And Ang actually gives us the specific Goldilocks dose to start with, right?
Yeah, and it's surprisingly small.
Just one thin slice of fresh ginger, or if you are using powder, a small teaspoon. That tiny amount contains enough gingerols to dictate the mechanical behavior of your entire digestive tract for the next 8 hours.
It is just a profound reminder of the potency of these natural compounds.
Yeah.
You do not need to overwhelm your biology to change it. You just need to provide the right signal.
That makes so much sense.
Wow.
Now, the text then pivots from the volume of the dose to the physical orientation of the body taking it, which I found really interesting.
Oh, the timing and gravity debate.
Yeah. Ang notes a common recommendation in the research. Ideally, you should drink this ginger water 1 to 2 hours after dinner so your body can process it while you are still in an upright position.
The logic there attempts to marry the chemical command of the gingerols with the physical reality of gravity.
Okay.
The thought process is that while the prokinetic is doing the work of stimulating those rhythmic contractions, being upright provides a downward slope.
Like sliding down a hill.
Right. You're enlisting gravity to assist the conveyor belt rather than forcing the muscles to push everything horizontally while you are lying flat in bed.
I have to push back on the necessity of that rule, though.
Oh.
Yeah, because if we just establish that gingerols are a potent chemical command, if they are literally binding to receptors and forcing the smooth muscle tissue to contract in a sweeping wave, why does gravity matter at all?
That's a fair point.
Like, the muscular force generated by the enteric nervous system should easily override the physical orientation of the body. In theory, you should be able to process that ginger hanging upside down.
Well, you are poking at the exact tension Eng highlights in the blog post. Because the text acknowledges this upright rule from the broader research, but then immediately contrasts it with actual lived reality.
Right.
Eng writes, quote, "That said, I didn't feel any discomfort drinking it right before bed."
I love that. Ang completely ignored the gravity rule. They drank the prokinetic and immediately lay down flat, and it still worked perfectly.
Yep.
The morning regularity was achieved without any of the predicted bottleneck or discomfort.
And honestly, the inclusion of that contradiction is perhaps the most valuable insight in the entire entry.
Really? How so?
Because it proves that biological rules found in research are not rigid laws of physics. They are guidelines that must be stress-tested against your unique physiology.
Oh, I see.
For some individuals with extremely sluggish motility or a highly sensitive gut, lying flat while the prokinetic kicks in might actually cause a traffic jam.
So their specific conveyor belt might be so weak that it genuinely needs gravity's help to move the materials along.
Exactly. But for Ang, the baseline strength of the gut, combined with the chemical trigger of the gingerols, was more than enough to handle the job on a horizontal plane.
That makes total sense. So it requires a high level of self-awareness.
And a willingness to gather your own data.
Yeah.
You start with the thin slice, you try it upright after dinner, you try it right before bed, you observe the output the next morning and adjust accordingly.
You prioritize your own bodily feedback over generalized advice.
Yes.
Which leads perfectly into the final section of Ang's notes. Because once you establish this baseline mechanical push, you realize you have an entire system you can tinker with.
Oh, the herbal additions.
Yeah, the text acknowledges that sometimes the physical push of ginger isn't the only thing the digestive tract needs. So Ang introduces 2 specific herbal pairings to potentially add to this nightly ritual: peppermint and chamomile.
What's fascinating here is how the distinct biological reactions laid out for each of these 3 ingredients reveal a deeply sophisticated approach to digestion.
They aren't just flavoring agents.
No, not at all. They are distinct pharmacological tools. We established that ginger is a prokinetic, right? It stimulates the contractions. But the text points out that peppermint serves a fundamentally different function. It relaxes the muscles.
And then chamomile brings a third variable to the table. According to Ang's reading, chamomile calms the nervous system.
Right.
When I look at these 3 ingredients working in tandem, I don't just see a tea recipe. I see a complete biological fail-safe system.
A fail-safe.
Yeah, like if you view the gut as a complex engine, the ginger is the accelerator pedal. It provides the drive, the momentum, the necessary forward motion. It basically forces the engine to run.
Okay, I'm with you. And following that logic, the peppermint would act as like the transmission fluid or the suspension.
Exactly that. Because if the ginger is pushing the accelerator, but the intestinal walls are rigid and cramped from stress or inflammation, you are just slamming the gears.
Which hurts.
Yes. The peppermint acts as an antispasmodic. It eases the physical tension in the smooth muscle tissue of the gut wall.
Right. It ensures that when the ginger commands the muscle to contract, the tissue is supple enough to wave smoothly, rather than fighting against the push.
It lubricates the physical mechanics of the movement.
That leaves the chamomile, which operates on an entirely different physiological level. The text notes it calms the nervous system.
Because biologically, digestion requires the body to be in a parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
Right, the rest and digest mode.
Yes. But if you are stressed, your body defaults to the sympathetic state, the fight or flight mode. And when you are in fight or flight, your brain literally reroutes blood flow and energy away from the digestive tract and into your extremities.
It shuts the factor down because it thinks you need to run from a predator.
Precisely. So the chamomile is the central computer override. It stimulates the vagus nerve to dial down the systemic anxiety.
Oh, wow.
It sends a message from the brain to the gut saying, the emergency is over. It is safe to allocate resources back to the factory.
So you really do have the complete failsafe. The chamomile tells the brain it is safe to turn the factory on. The peppermint lubricates the gears so they don't jam. And the ginger pushes the start button to begin the movement.
It's a beautiful system. And what is truly remarkable about this entry is a brief note Ang makes at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
After detailing this intricate 3-part mechanical system, Ang writes, I haven't tried this yet, but this is definitely something to explore later.
It is such a wonderfully honest admission. Ang has locked down the baseline, the warm water, and the single ginger slice, but now they have mapped out a complete diagnostic flowchart for the future.
It really changes the entire paradigm of how we interact with our bodies. I mean, digestion stops being this mysterious, unpredictable force that just happens to you.
Right.
It becomes a responsive system that you can actively tune and adjust. If the digestion feels heavy and stagnant, well, you lean on the ginger to force movement. If there's sharp cramping and resistance, you deploy the peppermint to relax the tissue.
And if the indigestion is born from a high-stress workday, you introduce the chamomile to shut down the fight-or-flight response.
It is incredibly empowering.
It really is. So for you listening, let's synthesize the vital insights we pulled from Ang's laboratory today.
Sounds good.
We started with a simple attempt to soothe the stomachache and uncovered the powerful mechanics of the migrating motor complex. We unpacked the prokinetic power of gingerols, how they act as the chemical command to turn the digestive conveyor belt back on, restoring those vital rhythmic contractions for morning regularity.
And we explored the physics and pharmacology of dosage. The profound importance of the Goldilocks dose, just one thin slice of fresh root or a small teaspoon of powder.
Because more is not better.
Exactly. Pushing beyond that minimal effective dose overwhelms the enteric nervous system. It turns smooth, peristaltic waves into chaotic spasms that cause trapped gas and bloating.
Then we tackled the gravity debate, noting that while remaining upright after dinner might assist a sluggish system, personal experimentation, like Aang lying down immediately, is the only true way to measure what your specific biology actually requires.
And finally, we mapped out the biological fail-safe system, using ginger to provide the mechanical push, peppermint to act as an antispasmodic to relax the muscle walls, and chamomile to stimulate the vagus nerve and pull the entire body out of fight-or-flight mode.
When you step back and look at the whole picture Aang painted in part 116, it is really a masterclass in nuance.
It is.
True wellness, true biological efficiency rarely comes from an extreme heavy-handed approach. It is found in the delicate balancing of opposing forces. It is knowing exactly when to stimulate and exactly when to relax.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the intelligence of the body is always there. Sometimes it just needs the precise, gentle nudge to remember how to do its job.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. Aang's text reveals these 3 distinct biological levers you can pull: stimulating the gut mechanics, relaxing the local muscle tissue, or calming the overarching central nervous system.
Right.
The next time you experience digestive discomfort, instead of just reaching for something to numb it, pause and ask yourself which of those 3 systems is actually crying out for help.
Oh, that's a great question.
How much of our daily digestive health relies on needing a physical prokinetic push versus simply needing our nervous system to calm down, stop treating the day like an emergency, and get out of its own way?
A phenomenal question to take away from this text.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Until next time.